Hello out there and welcome to the Nursing Home Abuse Podcast. My name is Rob Schenk.
And I'm Will Smith.
And we are your hosts for this podcast. As this goes to air, it is February 5th of 2018. Will is in full-on preparation mode for Valentine's, which is coming up.
That's interesting that you say that because I'm the single one and you have a girlfriend.
So what? Okay, what does Will do? Like, if because this is a hard time to date. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like okay, you don't want the first date to be Valentine's, but it might be the third date or the second one. Like, that's tough to do.
I'm going to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. I don't do anything different. I don't think about the fact that it's Valentine's Day. Because if I go out with somebody, let's say that we go out the first time end of January, and we go out again in February, a couple of times. Let's say by Valentine's Day we've gone out 5 times.
Well, that's it for you. I mean, it's done. Like I'm never seeing that person.
I'm not getting you a Valentine's Day gift. What, are we married?
So what is it? 3 months?
Oh man, I think we have to have gone around the sun at least one time. For a Valentine's Day gift, like I get my mom something, because whatever.
Oh, you always have to get your mom something.
Yeah, you always have to get your
mom always gets the same crappy, not even Russell Stovers. Like, I think my mom gets
yeah.
But actually, people have, this is genius now because now I get her, because she loves Snickers, but now they make Snickers those, like a Russell Stovers thing, but it's like little Snickers in the heart.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so
I want to get me one of those for Valentine's Day.
I love the confectioner sugar candies, the what are they called? The telegrams? They have a name.
I'm sure that it's not telegrams and you've just invented something.
No, it has a name that's something like that. It's like
Teletubbies?
The hearts that say like love me, kiss me.
Oh God.
Those are my favorite things in the world.
Oh, I can't even look at you. That's candy then. That's dime store candy. I don't eat candy ever. I eat chocolate and I'll eat cookies, I guess, but candy, like it's just like little pieces of candy. I couldn't hate that anymore. It's not possible. If the candy factories ended up polluting all of the southeast United States and killed all nature, I couldn't hate those little candies anymore.
I don't understand why. And also, they're called conversation hearts. That's what I'm talking about.
Conversation. So here's what I want you to think about that he did. He said telegram?
Yeah, telegram candies.
So telegram is a method of communication. Mm-hmm. And then he thought communication, that's like a conversation. So you have to reverse engineer where he came up with that. And it's fascinating.
It's very difficult in my thought processes. It's like being John Malkovich movie.
But anyway,
actually, I have one. No, okay, that's
no. Go ahead.
I'll save this for the end of the story. It's about how I entered Daniela, because she's Brazilian, is not familiar with not many, but some things that. Yeah. How could you be familiar with?
Yeah.
And it's about when we were in New York, passing by a place that sold those, and she's like, "What is these?"
Yeah, and that is what she sounds like.
Yeah, and so the guy that was selling them was like, "Hey man, let me just get a couple of these things." And he did it because he was like, "You're telling me that lady's never had one of these in her life?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "This is a public service. Here, please." Like, it was like New York. It's like, "Hey buddy, get out of my way." But that guy was like so taken aback.
What was this guy doing selling Valentine's Day candy?
It was in, what's it called, Union Station?
Yeah.
What's the nice, like it's made in 1920?
Yeah, Union Station.
Yeah, and it's like a candy shop in Union Station where you can take shovels of things. And I think it had like a thing by the counter or whatever. I was like, hey, let me get a couple of these.
You couldn't just give him $1?
I tried to. He goes, that's what I'm saying. He goes, no, I forbid you. This is her first experience with this. I cannot accept money for it. Also, he probably didn't want to ring it up.
What did she think about him?
Oh, she didn't like him.
They're horrible. That's
they're
why.
Great. They're great.
You have the taste buds of a 5-year-old or an 80-year-old, because those are the only two groups that like candy like that.
That's true, but that is true. But I skew more 80-year-old because I love blue cheese and I love blue cheese dressing.
Oh well, I mean, yeah, that's different though. That's food.
Okay.
Anyway,
all right. Well, Well, aside from this, we have a lot of good things to talk about in the episode.
Horrible things.
Interesting
things.
topics. That's what I mean. When I say
yeah.
good things, I mean interesting. You're right. You're right. Not to be taken lightly.
Yeah.
So no. But the topic that I wanted to address in this episode is medication errors. And to get us rolling on that, there's a story about this coming at us out of Gainesville.
I was about to say, if you chose Gainesville, Arkansas, and for those of you that may have missed the last episode, Rob has a propensity for some reason now to pick cities in other states other than Georgia that have a identical city in Georgia. So in other words, Atlanta, Texas. Or Alpharetta, Mississippi.
Yeah, Macon, Ohio.
Macon, Ohio. This one comes out of Gainesville, Florida. Like, okay, man.
There is a Gainesville, Florida.
I know there's a Gainesville, Florida.
Okay.
Anyway, so this is Arkansas. All right, 65-year-old sudden death from a medication error administered from an Arkansas nursing home nurse. It's just one of the number of significant errors found by CMS in the state. Arkansas received $1.3 million in fines, and federal data reports substantial errors are discovered in one in five nursing homes in the state, or 234 nursing homes. After this resident's death, the nurse was suspended from practicing, was fired, was issued re-education, and her license was reinstated in September. So, typically, whenever you'll hear me not excuse, but at least come to the defense of the nursing home staff, the people in the trenches, which are the CNAs and the floor nurses. So remember that when it comes to, for example, a totem pole, which we have learned actually is reversed than what we think.
In terms of order of importance of the people represented on it.
The least important people are actually on the top. So if you can imagine the least important people in a nursing home, as far as those with authority, not what they do. CNAs are the very, and I'm going to get rid of the totem pole thing because it keeps confusing me. CNAs are at the bottom of the list. Okay, CMA is the least important as far as authority, not what they do, but authority. Then you have floor nurses. Again, little authority. Then you'll have charge nurses. Then you have a DON. Then you have an administrator, right? Then you have a board of directors. But they're the ones though that are actually physically hands-on the resident. So they may have the least amount of authority, but they're probably the most important job, because you have to have CNAs and floor nurses, right? You have to have somebody getting the resident up, giving the resident medication, feeding the resident. You have to have that. And it's unfortunate, and you'll hear me come to their defense a lot of times when they have allowed negligence to occur, because I feel like it's understaffing that is the real culprit here. In this one, this nurse actually has a history of administering the wrong medication, so I think it was appropriate that she was terminated, that her license was suspended, and that she had to go through re-education. That being said, passing out medication I never did that. I was a CNA.
Just so for the purposes of the audience, can you walk us through what does it physically look like?
I'm about to do that. Hold on. I never did that. I was just a CNA. But my father did it, and I watched it done all the time. But it gave me anxiety because it seemed so complicated, and I was like, I don't know how you guys don't mess this up. So what you have is you've got this medical cart. It's this big metal plastic cart that sits about chest level, that's got all these little drawers in it. that correspond to the different residents, right, of a single floor. So, for example, the parlance that we used in the last place that I worked in was blue hall, green hall, and I forget what the other hall was called. But so imagine you're on blue hall, right? And there's about 30 residents. So you've got this big metal and plastic cart that the nurse is pushing down the hall, and it's got 30 drawers in it. Here's a drawer for Miss Johnson. Here's a drawer for Mr. Johnson. And this nurse at the prescribed time, that is their main job, right? They're not changing diapers. They're not supposed to feed. They're not supposed to do anything other than chart and pass out medicine. So my dad, or any of these other nurses would push it to room 1, look in there. This is what this Miss Johnson's supposed to get. 1 Advil as needed, a blood pressure medicine, right? And something for her diabetes.
Right. So so I can have the picture painted in my mind, pull the drawer out.
Okay, so you pull the drawer out, and you have these big sheets of medicine, and the medicine is in there in these plastic, you have to push the button to pop the medicine out. So you've got these sheets of medicine, right? And it's everything from narcotics to blood pressure to things for dementia, things for Alzheimer's, whatever medicine they're on, and everybody is on a lot of medicine, right? It's not all psychotropic, but they're on medicine because most of them are in poor health. So they're taking these sheets of medicine out, they're popping it into the little white paper cups that they give to people for medicine. Then they'll go in the room. Hey, Miss Johnson, how you feeling today? Here's the medicine that you have to take. Here's a glass of water. Go ahead and take it. Right? Sometimes that takes a while, but that's what you do until everybody has taken their medicine, and that can take an hour or an hour and a half.
So tell me, where is the cart prior to her taking it to Blue Hall, and where does the cart go after she's done with it?
Well, you got to understand that the cart is restricted access because it has a lot of narcotics in it. So the cart is locked up and kept at the nurse's station. If it's not at the nurse's station, it's with the nurse and it's being pushed down the hall. Not everyone has or should have access to the cart. Just the nurses in the nursing staff, not the CNAs, but the floor nurse, the charge nurse, the DON, they may have access to this because you have to sign out this medicine as you pass it out.
So it's accounted for.
So it's accounted for.
So the individual passing out the medications, after she's done with Miss Johnson, she checks it off of a list of the...
She checks off what happens because she a couple things could happen. She could go to Miss Johnson and be like, Miss Johnson, do you need something for pain? And Miss Johnson can go, no, I don't want anything right now. And she'll have to mark off, did not request anything, did not request a narcotic.
Because some of these prescriptions are discretionary.
Yeah, they're discretionary, and these are also prescriptions that have high street value. Opioids, and there's a huge opioid problem in America right now. So the nursing staff have to mark, what did I do with this medicine? Did Miss Johnson take it? Did she vomit it up? Did she spit it out? Did I even take it out of the package? Or it could be something like, that's not a psychotropic drug. It could be something that's just for her blood pressure. Lisinopril, for example, is a very common blood pressure medicine. So I went there and I tried to give it to Miss Johnson, and she refused to take it. We did everything we could. We couldn't get her to open her mouth. She lashed out at us and said, get out of my room. We couldn't get her to take it. So I'm marking down that I didn't get her to take it. Then I'm going to call the doctor and say, Doc, I couldn't get her to take her blood pressure medicine. So everything has to be marked as to what they're doing. And you got to imagine, it is not easy getting these people to take medicine. It's just not easy. And not only are you you're going through each of these drawers and you're popping this medicine out and you're looking at this chart, but you've also got CNAs that are constantly coming up to you and going, I can't get to Rose and feed her dinner or lunch or breakfast,
or other residents,
or hey, somebody fell and they cut their head, or this happened, or this happened, or this happened, because you're the floor nurse, all right? And the floor nurse is the one that is in charge of that hall. The charge nurse is in charge of all the floor nurses, but sometimes they're not really good at what they do, or they're busy themselves. So that floor nurse is the first person in your chain of command that you go to. So you've got CNAs that are constantly bombarding this floor nurse with all of these problems that they're having. And it's easy. It's easy as you're doing this to go through this and to forget to pop out a medicine for Miss Johnson. And it could be devastating, because some of these medicine aren't just, they're not just prophylactic, like things that are preventative. They're not just psychotropic. They're not just pain medicine. Some of them are absolutely dire. Miss Johnson must have this medicine or she could die. You must give her insulin or she could die. And it's easy for stuff like that to slip through the cracks and for somebody not to do it. I could totally see it, which is why it always gave me anxiety watching these nurses go through and pass out this medicine, because I was like, man, how do more mistakes not happen? That's what's amazing to me. But in this case, even though I will defend what the floor nurses are doing as far as passing out medicine, this woman has a history of passing out the wrong medicine. So maybe she shouldn't even be passing out medicine, period, if she can't do it.
Yeah, she's playing on her phone, easily distracted.
Oh yeah,
something
absolutely.
Like that. Yeah. What's I don't know this stat, but I wonder what percentage of nursing homes across the country have moved towards like iPad charting versus actual paper charting this.
I don't know, because I stopped, I think the last time that I worked in one was 2008, and I still had not even a flip phone at that point. I hadn't moved into flip phones, so we didn't have the technology back then.
Yeah,
I think a lot of things are more technology based, because that's better, especially when it comes to charting, because you can't just go back through and mark it whenever you want to. It has a record and a history, but those things also cost money, and you'll hear time and time again us talk about how these the owners of these places are trying to cut corners. So if you're trying to line your pocket and cut corners and you're not hiring enough staff, I'm pretty sure you're not investing in iPad, medical charting equipment either.
And that shows because, let's see, there in Arkansas alone, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but a watchdog group in Arkansas documented that there were 261 significant medication errors.
Yeah.
that they uncovered. So not medication errors that ended up not being a problem, but significant ones that had some type of ramification on health or some potential ramification on health. 261 errors in 2013. That's just what we found out. And that's probably a drop in the bucket. So, medication errors, are just based on that, are a serious problem in Arkansas, if not every state in the country. Federal data, according to this article, federal data shows significant errors on average are discovered in one of every 5 nursing homes in Arkansas, which has 234 facilities. Neither state nor federal regulators could provide information on how many medication errors have resulted in deaths. Fines, though, were levied in 43 of the cases, totaling about $1.3 million, according to federal data. Arkansas's significant error citation rates far surpass those in most other states. And Arkansas, which is the natural state, I didn't know that. Arkansas's motto is is their nickname is the natural state. It's the only state that has ranked in the top 3% of errors in each of the past 5 years.
Yeah, and that's horrible. Now, I don't know why it seems to be this way, but it seems like it's more southern states that are the problem, and within those southern states, the less educated areas are even a bigger problem. And I guess I shouldn't say I don't know why. That makes perfect sense. Even in Georgia, and I love this state, and I'm not giving a problem. I'm not criticizing anybody who is from South Georgia. I love South Georgia, but we have constantly had complaints about South Georgia, like to the point where I've even thought about opening up an office down there. And I think it's just the lack of qualified staffing that's available in these places. Arkansas is not a very well educated state. It's not a very wealthy state. If you've ever driven through Arkansas, there are parts of it that still look like a Steinbeck novel from the Grapes of Wrath. Like, it's okay. So sorry that I, but it is. I went to the Ozarks to go camping one time, and I drove through Arkansas, and it's just, there's not a lot going on there. And I've got good friends from Arkansas. Sorry, guys, but it's true. And there's not a lot of, Georgia is one of the worst offenders in the nation. And, Georgia doesn't, I would not say does better than in education than a lot of other places.
And that's what this article points out is education and money. Money means staff. And so most experts trace the medication errors issue to staffing. Nursing homes typically have high employee turnover, and staffing levels are usually kept near a minimum to do what? Maximize profits.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Medication errors, again, are also something that are really hard to track, because unless it involves, unless it's clear that the medication error is what happened, people are not going to know about it. Because these people are elderly in the first place, and let's say that Ms. Johnson doesn't get some medicine, and because of that, she dies. It's not like the team from CSI is coming out there to do an autopsy, and determine, oh no, she didn't get her lisinopril, and that led to this, which led to this, which led to that, and then she died. No, Ms. Johnson died, and the family's upset, but nobody's really investigating it. And by that time, the nursing staff has probably altered the documents and said, no, I gave this to her. I definitely gave it to her. And how are you going to prove them wrong?
And so that's actually a good point and a good segue to talk about some of the observable signs of medication error. One of the observable signs in your loved one would be drastic changes in physical, like observable physical features. So weight would be the most important one. So if your loved one has dropped weight drastically very quickly, or gained weight very quickly, that could possibly be the result of a medication error, and a lot of times a continual medication error. So there continue to be not provided a particular drug which would have an effect between the other drugs they might be taking, which would cause rapid weight gain or rapid weight loss. Another one might be a rapid change in demeanor. Mm-hmm. And these aren't, bright line rules. These are just things to keep in mind.
It also could be literally any change whatsoever.
Yeah.
If you notice your grandmother or your mother is acting differently or looks differently in any way, shape, or form, always bring it up to nursing staff, because they may not even realize it.
Yeah.
Because that's, like I said again, I mean, my heart goes out to all the charge nurses, or the floor nurses anyway, who are passing out these medicines, because unless they've got a better method of doing it nowadays, I just don't know how more mistakes didn't happen, because it seemed so complicated and tedious and meticulous that it was just ripe for making mistakes. And you got to remember that these residents, too, are not sitting in their rooms always waiting on their medicine.
Yeah.
They've got to go find them. They've got to break it up sometimes and put it in food. It's a hard job. It really is.
Yeah, until we get robots.
Yeah, and then that will be the end. Then we'll have a problem with robots abusing the elderly, which is going to happen.
Yeah. Speaking about robots, no, I don't know.
Speaking about, one of my favorite robotic movies where they do hurt the elderly is The Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking about The Terminator, I think we have terminated this episode.
That's as good as it's going to get.
Yeah, it's as good as it's going to get. Jack Nicholson.
You can always watch this podcast on.
You can always watch this podcast.
Always. We just put it on repeat.
Yeah. On a loop.
On a continual loop. Just put it in the background.
Yeah.
Anyway, so go to our YouTube channel, or you can watch it on nursinghomeabusepodcast.com. Right now, I think it's fair to say that we're the most watched nursing home abuse podcast online right now.
That is correct.
Yeah, I think that we can actually say that without it being any type of misrepresentation.
Right, no embellishment whatsoever.
No,
we are also the most listened nursing home abuse podcast on Spotify.
That's right.
By a wide margin.
By a wide margin.
Yeah.
So, as Will was saying, you can also listen to this podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcast from. And with that, we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Nursing Home Abuse Podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher, and feel free to leave us some feedback. And for more information about the topics discussed in this episode, check out the show website, nursinghomeabusepodcast.com. That's nursinghomeabusepodcast.com. See you next time.